Thank you. Thank you for introduction. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for resurrecting Ruby SF. I was still around when Ruby SF was just kind of a new thing, and nobody knew Ruby who came to these meetups, so that was kind of fun. Yeah, thank you. All right, so I'm told I have 20 minutes, so I'm going to start my timer and try not to get over too much. But today I want to talk about something fun. Well, at least for me it was fun. One of the things that I think Ruby is really great at and is highly underutilized is DSL. I love DSLs, and I've written a bunch of gems before using DSLs, and now with, of course, help of AI, your imagination is your limit, really. So how did the story begin? So my wife just passed the third exam to be an enrolled agent. That's someone who can prepare taxes for people. And she started a business. And she's a very impatient person, and so am I. But she's worse. And at some point she tells me, you know, I'm spending half an hour all the time on the phone just asking the same damn questions. Every single time, same questions. Can you put some form on my site so that people fill it out and I know ahead of time who am I speaking with and what sort of complexity their tax situation is going to be. I'm like, little form. How hard can it be? Famous last words. So what I wanted to do is to sort of put up some kind of a bubble where you would be asked some questions, qualify. Essentially, if you generalize it, it's qualifying leads, or maybe onboarding users, or maybe just collecting structured intake data about people. None of this is meant to be for secure stuff like SSNs or anything like that. But the other problem that she had is that depending on the complexity of the tax return, she charges different amount, right? It's like if you have 3 businesses, there's going to be a lot more work for her to file it. So that's going to cost more. So she wanted to also put together something that would automatically give an estimate. You know, based on your situation, well, this is probably going to be the minimum it's going to cost you, unless there's complications. So, all right. So if somebody is on W-2, maybe they really just need 8 questions and that's it. Someone who has a business, maybe that's 17 questions. So dynamic form, right? Dynamic questions. How do you do that? So I kind of looked around for what exists today and what I could already use to do that. And I looked in Python, looked in JavaScript, looked in Ruby, couldn't find anything exactly like that. But I found state machines, form wizards, workflow engines, rules engines, and survey gems, but none of them did branching, show different things based on the previous answers, or none of them were medium independent, meaning that you could render it on a different like a screen or whatever. And so nothing really combined in the scientific words, declarative DSL with a directed graph with AST rules. If this, then go to that step, plus typed answers and JSON serialization, and maybe LLM. So the core idea was to basically create this DSL that you could say, ask this question, expect this answer of this certain type. Your edges in the graph are essentially transitions if more than 2 dependents go there or whatever. And then the engine walks the graph, collects typed answers, and then everything serializes to JSON at any time. And so this is an example. I'm going to show you a lot of Ruby code today that does not look like Ruby. Well, maybe it does. But this is an example of the DSL. It defines a form. It says where it starts. And the first question is a filing status. Its type is a num. There's more than 2 options in real life, of course, but this is a presentation. So here we only have 2. It has a widget hint that has a target, desktop, mobile, or whatever. It also may have a price, and the price may have a way that it's applied to this particular enum. In here, it just says that single item is single 200, married jointly 400. So this is a hash. And the edge here, it transitions to dependence, the next question. So that's a very compact way to put a lot of information in. There's a lot going on here. And, well, it took, because there's a lot going on here, there's quite a lot of plumbing behind the scenes that makes all of this work. So first of all, there's 11 data types supported, basic things like string, text, integer, whatever, currency, but more importantly and more commonly enums and multi-enums, multi-selects. This is what a transition rules look like. So that's basically AST-based, and you can nest them however you want, and you can create really crazy rules that go to different steps, but generally it would be pretty simple. There's another feature, well, that's the price, called accumulator. That's a running total. So in this example here, the top one once again uses hash to define pricing. The bottom one says per selection, basically also a hash. Actually, oh yeah, one is a single, the other one could be multiple. So that's the difference. And then there's a couple more ways that you can apply. Like, for example, if the data type is integer, you can say one of that or multiply it by a certain amount. So the cool thing is that whole form, DSL, at any time, it serializes into JSON. And because it serializes into JSON, it can be interpreted by front-end JavaScript just the same way that it can be interpreted by Ruby. So I open sourced essentially 4 gems. Sorry, I can't count. So originally I called it Flow Engine, but I don't know, that sounded too much like 2010. So Inquirex it became. It means Inquirex, I guess. So the core module defines DSL rules. It's the engine. It's what keeps the state. It's what keeps you progressing. And the extensions are Inquirex LLM. This one adds 4 additional words to the DSL. I will talk about them in a sec. There's Inquirex TTY. Now, that is not something that changes DSL. That's actually a consumer of all of these gems that allows you to answer that form in a terminal. And I'll show you how that works in a second. And then there's Inquirex JS, which is pretty awesome. It receives that JSON I just showed you and walks you through these questions the same way. And it can skip very similarly through questions that, if the DSL says so. And of course, there's going to be a Rails app that I'm hoping to build and make it possibly paid product, maybe not, I don't know. It's a very niche thing to do, so it might be worth for someone to pay a little bit for that. Maybe not, it doesn't really matter. The point is that using the gems, anyone, all of you, you can put that on your site, basically, now. Now, there is currently a limitation. The current limitation is that the JavaScript frontend is not currently integrated with LLM. And that is because, of course, in order to do that, you have to go to the server, because you can't keep keys, API keys on a JavaScript, right? So you have to hit server first and then get your answer. And right now, the JavaScript module is pure JavaScript. It pulls JSON, runs through the entire thing, and then posts the data back. So you cannot use LLM keywords such as clarify, describe, summarize yet on the web. That's the limitation that's going to be removed once all of these gems are integrated into a single Rails app. So this is kind of like going into the LLM. And so how would you use LLM in this case? Well, here's a form, 8 questions for somebody who is very, maybe, I don't know, very common scenario, I guess. They can certainly go through these questions one by one, or we can let them type some stuff up front and then send it to LLM and give it a structure and say, hey, if you find filing status, dependents, income types, business count in that text, please assign it to these steps in the flow. And does everyone know what the temperature is? More or less. Low temperature means stick really to the structure that I'm asking. Temperature of 1 means be very poetic and diverge. We don't really want that here. So what LLM returns from the text, there was a text right there. I'm married, filing jointly, I have 2 kids, I work at Google, blah, blah, blah. That's what LLM returns. And so that fills out 7 answers right off the bat. And so the only answer that's left in a form is the email of the person. And that's it. Because the engine automatically skips all the answers that are already provided. So the insight here is that DSL defines what data you need. It's deterministic, it's typed, and it's validated. LLM extracts what it can probabilistically from free text. And the engine asks only what's left from these questions. So I promised to explain what the LLM verbs are. Now, I will say this is a work in progress. So if any of you have a brilliant idea, please share with me. But so you can clarify structured data from free text. You can say basically extract that stuff. Describe. Actually, I think those might be synonyms. Summarize actually generates like a text summary, so it goes back the other way around. And detour, that's something that maybe if you answered yes to a certain really weird question, we don't really want to have a prescribed set of questions ahead of time. We just want to let LLM handle it. And so detour kind of gives LLM what to get out of you, and hopes that it's basically going to ask the right questions and come back with the data. So it's a little bit of a free for all, I guess. And all requires schema declarations, which basically explain what we are looking for. Oh, and every LLM verb when it's used in a DSL it's automatically marked with require server true. And that comes through in JSON to the front end. And that's so that front end knows that this particular type of a question needs to go to the server, not directly answered. So I'm going to skip that. This is a really kind of I think, lightweight integration. So you want it on your site. So hopefully I will launch qualified.add at some point. You come, you create an account, you add a site to it, give it a URL, and then you, well, maybe right now you'll write a DSL. Maybe I will help you. But down the road, there'll probably be some kind of graphical interface that creates the DSL. And then all you do to integrate it is you create that script, tell it where to get the JSON from. So the get to that URL should return a JSON that describes the data flow, the questions. And at the very end, the post to the same URL posts the answers, also in JSON form. And the library that is doing the kind of display and rendering is called lit, and it uses kind of a shadow DOM, so it doesn't conflict with anything on a host site. Cool. So we have a time for a live demo. So this is going to be fun. Here we go. That's what we needed. So here's that's a TTY gem. And it has a bunch of subcommands. So if you have a flow file, by the way, let me show you flows. So in examples folder, there are a bunch of flows. And the last one is like really heavy duty. So I guess I'll show you the heavy duty one first. This is what it looks like. Basically has lots of questions, lots of options, and it goes for quite some time. But it doesn't have to be this complicated. It could be as simple as this, like application for a job, I don't know, maybe different skills, design, I don't know, years of experience, whatnot. So these are the different DSLs that I have here. And that TTY gem is basically a CLI that takes that file, and you can do things with it like run it, so that'll run interactively. You can validate it, that it's valid, doesn't have any errors. You can create a flowchart from it using Mermaid, and you can export it to JSON or YAML. So I'm going to show you running through maybe one of the examples, but maybe let's pick something like that. So this is using a TTY toolkit. Let me, it's supposed to fit into a screen, I guess. I don't know, big font. So this one starts, so TTY gem is integrated with LLM, and basically it says, hey, just describe your situation in your own words. So I'm just gonna say, married with a kid, W2, wife has a business, investments, crypto, and that's it. It's not really it, but. And so what just happened? LLM extracted dependents 1, income types. But I didn't say which state I'm in, and I didn't say what filing status I'm. So I'm presented with these questions. So I'm married, filing jointly, and the state I'm in is California. And this is my name. Basically, you can have a callback that upon completion will either email or or just dump the answers onto the screen in this particular case. Also, if you do run -h, you could see that you can save the output into a file just right here. So that was the LLM kind of base demo that showed you that LLM can fill out some forms. And now I'll show you what the front-end integration looks like. So I'll make this bigger. It dawned on me that we're at intercom, and this looks a little bit like intercom, but only when I got here. So now this form right here is based on that long form that I exported into JSON, and so now it's going to ask me, am I a US citizen? I don't want to get ICE in here, so I'm just going to answer that. Do I have a copy of my recent return? Yes, I do. May I join, and so on. So you could see how quickly this is going. And this is a very long form, deliberately, just to kind of test the limits. Obviously, this is not the best way to do states, but this is product in progress, and so on. So I'm not even gonna get to the end, or maybe I will. None. No. None. As soon as possible. An email address. Look at that. I made it to the end. Thanks. And all of those widgets, like this is a widget that is actually part of the DSL, the checkbox and all of that. So, and there's a bunch of others like alert and warning. So nowhere in this process did it go to LLM, because, like I said, it needs a server for that. So that's kind of the demo of the front end. So what are the next steps of this project? So the gems are working. They're under active development, so more features are getting added, but you can play around with them. It's under Inquirex GitHub username, and the website is under construction. So the use cases beyond tax is, there's a whole bunch of different use cases that you might want to do. And I kind of think that it's pretty cool that you can put together a pretty complex form that optimizes for individual situation pretty quickly. Big fan of test coverage. So all of the gems have tests. I tried for more than 95%. Looks like I failed on Inquirex, but yeah, that's kind of it. So gems are under GitHub Inquirex, and I am Kingster. Thank you very much. Look at that, 23 minutes, perfect. How am I doing? Is there any questions? Anybody want to put it on their site?
Or in your CLI?
No, not the
which
CLI.
is more in fashion now, right? Everything should be CLI. Anyway,
that is true. Everything isn't. It's because of Ratatouille.
Yeah, let's take one question and then go into the break.
Do you plan to build views into your engine?
It comes with one.
Rails views or JavaScript?
Oh, views into the engine. That is a great question. I haven't decided yet. I think that I'm going to launch the site first. Sure. And see what the traction is, because if I open source the Rails engine, then that's kind of beyond the point. So if the site gets traction, probably not. If it doesn't, most definitely. But it will be developed as a Rails engine for that reason specifically? That's a good question. Anybody else?